Hello and welcome to this review of LEGO Masters Season 4, Episode 3, The Volcano Building Challenge. This was a fantastic episode. This is one of my favorite...
I've been waiting for this one for a while.
Favorite episode of LEGO Masters in a long time. It was destruction, but it was a lot more, I don't know, creative.
It was nuanced, yeah. There was more to it than just make it look cool and it blows up.
Yeah, nothing, it wasn't blowing up. It was like make a function for the lava flow to have happen during this... volcanic eruption. So it's very
Have there really been any other challenges where fluid dynamics have come into play?
Kind of. Technically on our season we had, in our explosions, you had slime, you had water, you had sparkles, and there was some difference in the explosion, but not that much. This is a lot more fun.
Well, actually, there was also the water fountain one in Season 3. That's maybe more along what I was thinking in terms of like doing something cool with a liquid.
Based on what I was seeing and what I've heard, nobody enjoyed the water function.
I'm sure they did not.
This seemed a little bit more functional.
It seemed a little more fun too. It was.
I would have loved this. This is a blast.
I think we really saw like everybody's like peak creativity with this theme. Like, it was really good.
Overall, there's a couple exceptions we'll get to down the road, but I would say the presentation for where all the builds went to, like the central volcano and the build bases you start with, that reminded me of Australia in a very good way.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very fun idea to get a biome to build in and give them a starting point. Otherwise, it's like, build a volcano, here's a blank base plate.
Right.
That would be
Everybody would have built a tropical island, something very similar.
I think this is a really good format to give them just a little bit of a structure to bounce off of, because that really helps. And having a pre-made base plate is nice too. For many challenges on Season 2, we were just given, I think it was 9-10 base plates. It's like, do something. And you're like, and it's huge. You're like a huge area, and you're like, what am I going to do? You got to cover it. You can't leave it all plain. It was awful.
Well, like last week with the kittens, they were like octagons or hexagons or something.
Yeah.
So they're leaning more into giving them interesting shapes.
Yeah, and maybe at least a little bit of a theme, because the cats all had personalities you had to build off of too. So good decisions overall to help make it an easier time for ideas. There's still a lot of trees happening. So I mean,
That's true.
So the first team that got their chance to present to the judges, and their theme was Oceans and Seas, was Lewis and Alex. And their build was called Temple of the Sea God, and they went first, so they had the opportunity to show what was possible. And their build, once the fire shot up and the lava started pouring out, it actually triggered the eye movement.
That one was
and
really
it came
cool.
out of the mouth.
That was great.
Lewis and Alex, man, I'm very impressed with their builds so far. What do you guys think about their builds?
I thought theirs was fantastic in this episode in particular. This is all the people who built like temples or ruins or societies built. That's exactly what I would have done. So I love seeing that giant face. It was almost Chamber of Secrets like with those spooky eyes and the way the mouth opens. The feature on theirs was fantastic.
The functions seemed to work perfect too. What do you think, Garrett?
I think it was one of the most creative functions out of all the builds. I was not expecting the eyes to flicker, and I mean that was a really cool function they added in, and I think it really made their piece. Before it looked great, but once the statue came alive. Super cool looking.
Exactly.
Almost like Olmec or something.
Yeah.
Legends of the Hidden Temple. All of those things kind of wrapped into one.
So they're able to kind of have a fun jungle temple vibe, but it was underwater, and they did sell that pretty well with these exact strands of kelp here, because we at Atlanta Brick Co. are about an hour drive from the studio, and they didn't want to have to clean all that slime-covered bulk brick that they took from these builds, so guess where they traded it for some store credit?
We ended up with a little bit of it.
Yeah, so we have some actual props from the movie, the shows. This is pretty exciting.
Super cool.
Now we sometimes get signs or big glued models and things. This is the first time we've really gotten things from the contestants.
From their actual
built
builds.
from them. So Lewis and Alex spent who knows how long putting all these little leaves on these flex rods here. And then
Not 20 hours for sure. Maybe 12 hours.
12 hours is actually the longest time to build for this season so far.
Yeah.
So good for them.
Yeah.
But
They
also
did
this
10,
door.
10, 12, I think, so far.
So this is on the front of the temple. And that's probably why it's got a nice coating of orange
it's
slime.
got the slime on it to prove it. These are the real deal.
But you can see the handiwork going, and you got some nice dots, pieces
really nice
being
detail.
woven in there. So we got a little bit of Lewis and Alex's handiwork here, and so interestingly, everything in our store is for sale, guys. So if you see this video and you want this stuff, let us know. Maybe we can hook you up with some of your original work if you happen to be on the show. Anyway, send us an email.
We have to give the creators first dibs, not general customers.
Yeah, exactly. We're not selling this to any old fan.
Yeah,
this is going to be
I would say if the original creators would like their things back, we might be able to arrange it.
Yeah, send us an email.
You've never been able to get anything out of the show. That's just unheard of.
No, so it's you're not allowed to keep anything.
It's a special opportunity.
Yep.
Anyway, but Lewis and Alex totally safe. It was a crowded field for the top spot, so they didn't make it this time. I think that was fine. Mm-hmm. I could have seen them up there, but anyway.
A lot of people really flourished with this challenge for sure. I think the theming is just really open to a lot of creative options.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just happy that Lewis and Alex seem to be really succeeding with a number of their challenges after a somewhat slow start. So. But Tim and Tim were the next ones to present. They also had Oceans and Seas.
Yes.
They had the Big Plunge because it was like it was basically SpongeBob.
Yes. That's what it was.
What did you guys think of their build?
I really liked it. I loved how colorful it was. Mm-hmm. I liked their function. It was a little simple, but I did like it. The lava came down and the fish just started swimming. I think it worked out perfect. And their little fish guys are super cool.
Yeah.
I love these things.
So I think that
when we got these in, I mean, we didn't know anything about the challenge that they came from, but I'm like, that's cool. They've put minifig legs into bricks and done sort of a hybrid minifig sculpted character.
It looks like a fish. Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I think that they learned from previous seasons of Lego Masters, and they're just absolutely forcing as much color as possible in their builds. It had a blue volcano, and it was very eye-catching. So good job for Tim and Tim.
Yeah,
they got very good, comments from the judging too. So. But they also were just short of the top spot, and I think we can see why. It was maybe not quite as grand as some of the ones that made it there. But
it wasn't the best on the field, I don't think, but I did like it. I think it is some of their best work that we've seen so far.
I'd say it was top 50% of the builds.
Yes.
I think it was pretty good. So.
Theirs kind of stood out to me as their lava was flowing. It seemed like it was faster than the others. I don't know if they got a slightly higher volume, but their lava just came pouring out across the field.
There was a couple where it looked like they had some thicker lava, and some people looked like they just had orange water.
Yeah. And we don't really know what duration they ran it for, so maybe depending on how you built it, it could kind of build up and then cascade out like that versus the ones that sort of...
Was there a set amount that got put into each build, or did they just fill it to the brim?
It's all the kind of behind the scenes stuff we won't really.
And Lewis and Alex seem to have a lot flow out of theirs too with the eye and stuff, but then other teams seem to have none. Maybe it's just the way that their build interacted with it.
Could have.
So, might be.
But we'll maybe we can get some comments about the actual ratio of slime.
I'd really like to know how they wired that in there. What they were like, the volume they were putting in there. I mean, do they have to stick to a certain size so these people could come by and fit the pyrotechnics in there?
Right.
It'd be cool if the show actually showed us what the challenge was. Sometimes a little bit more in detail.
We knew they had those pipes, and it seemed like they actually had, I think, 2 pipes. I think there was one for the sparks and a separate one for the slime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure if it was being pumped up from the bottom of that pipe or if they slid something all the way through it that came out the top. I'm not sure.
Anyway, maybe one day we'll get all the answers, but right now we just gotta guess. But, Tim and Tim, totally safe. Next build that was presented was probably the winner in the end, but it was spoilers. Poppy and Ben.
These are all about spoilers.
Yeah. The theme was desert, and it was the city of the scorpion worshippers. So, I think this was a really good build. Desert's a fun theme. They really went like a big kind of mythical creature, and they had a story, and the slime seemed to work pretty well. But, Daniel, did you have some thoughts about where Ben went to school?
Yeah, so despite winning this challenge, Ben did reveal that he went to the University of Virginia, so I will have to dock him points for that. Unfortunately,
it's a big no-no in Daniel's book.
The rivals of my alma mater, Virginia Tech.
So there's a rivalry
there. Knock him down a peg there, but that's all right.
We still love you, Ben. Ben and Poppy, they seem to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Their build turned out very well. They ended up winning the challenge, which I think is totally valid. They've kind of been hovering in the middle for a while, but you could tell there was something there. So.
Yeah. Definitely never thought they were bad builders or not capable, but we really got to see them shine this week. Very Pharaoh's Quest vibes.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah. Which is exactly what they need to do. Yeah.
And I will say with Poppy and Ben, they don't show stress. They don't. These guys don't break sweat really.
Very cool.
They're having fun with it at the end of the day, and that's all it's about for them. Yeah, and I love that.
They're enjoying it. They're really having a good time. They're not like, I gotta survive. They're just like, let's get a good.
Yeah, they're not freaking out about time. They're just going through it and having fun. Yeah. So I really do like that.
Unlike the next team, Jordan and Chris with the Ancient Awakening, also a desert theme. Yeah. So, does anyone want to start? I could finish the thoughts on this one.
I like the direction they were going. I think it could have been really, really, really cool. I like them. I think they are a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Last week they had a bad episode.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't get to connect things, weren't even allowed to present it.
Mm-hmm.
This week, I like the idea a lot. That water wheel that would have moved the Cobra up, super cool idea. But
didn't come together.
The judges came by and told them, we want to see a volcano.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do that.
No volcano.
And so, you know, I like the way they were going with it, but when the judges come over and tell you they want to see something, you have to add that.
Exactly.
And we talk about this every season with Lego Masters. When the judges tell you got to do something, you have to pivot and you have to listen to what they're saying, or it's over.
You have to make an effort, even if you can't completely change.
We've seen many really talented, good teams go home because of it. I mean, Jordan and Chris, they're really good builders.
They are.
Their cat house was, design-wise, really great looking. It had nice color balance. It had nice techniques in it and stuff, and they just missed the mark on a couple things, and it's really unfortunate to see.
I really
like
think they just hit a streak of bad luck the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I do not think we saw their full capability as builders in the slightest.
Yeah, I would have loved to see some more stuff out of them.
Unfortunately, I think that was they got a little tunnel vision. They got a little bit of planning issues because everybody else is building a triangle-shaped volcano, and that's kind of the point of the challenge, apparently.
Yeah.
They had a large base to hide that wheel. And instead, they should have had that wheel exposed and made it part of the build. You know, it's like you shouldn't have raised everything up and then just had a pillar for your volcano. You should have had a cone-shaped build. You know, just do it. You can't go too far off the beaten path sometimes. So yeah. But unfortunately for Jordan and Chris, they ended up in the bottom two and ended up going home. But we'll talk about the judging in a minute. So
another thing with theirs, so it seemed like their lava was flowing through a channel towards the edge of the wheel, and it seemed like it was just coming up short of it.
Yeah.
So we were talking about not knowing all the parameters of the lava and how it works, but while I was watching the episode, I was wondering if they had gotten any sort of demonstration on the viscosity of the lava or the slime, because I think that would play a huge factor into how you design something that's supposed to interact with it. So I wonder if there was any kind of demo where they got to see that slime in action, because that would have been a major mistake.
I mean, if you think that slime's a little more runny and you think it's going to shoot off that,
if it was water, it would have worked.
But
or it could have been a really thick slime.
Exactly.
It moved it all.
So,
I don't know. Hard to say.
If it's based on my experience, we were given, for our explosion challenge, we were given a 3 not even minute video of a little explosion on the back of the studio lot. That was like, here's what it looks like.
Gotcha.
And we're like,
well,
and then guess what? After the first 2 explosions happened and nothing fell over, they said, okay, we need to quadruple the explosive power. And so they had 2 teams rebuild their mock, and then they did it all over again. And some teams did not do so well because they planned on small explosions. It was a disaster.
I gotcha.
Anyway, so if it's anything like that, they must have had like almost no experience with what the lava would do. So they're just guessing. In which case, they guessed for a bigger flow, and it didn't happen.
Right. So, we have been fortunate to have several contestants this season commenting on our videos. So,
that is true.
However, we don't want them to violate any NDAs or things they've signed. But if you think you're allowed to tell us anything about that, I would certainly be curious to know.
I think it's safe to say that, like, if you could feel like you're confident enough to say, we didn't really know what the lava would do, that's you should be fine with stuff like that. But don't go too much into detail if you don't feel comfortable with it.
We'd love as much information.
We don't want y'all to get in any trouble.
The next team we have is Allison and Melanie, and their theme was clouds, and they also went into their music
Probably
vibe.
The hardest one. I think up in the clouds for a volcano is...
You gotta really get creative with the cloud concept there. And I think they did.
It was a good choice for them.
Yeah. The name was Kaboom Box, the Rocknado. Rockanado, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was an interesting name choice, but they had a lot of pieces.
They had a lot of these blue aliens. I remember them commenting about their blue aliens.
Doing the lava dance.
Yeah, we have some of them.
We have some of the remains.
Rock band t-shirts there.
That's a good one.
So we have some of their figures, and their build had a big boombox. They had 2 troughs coming out. They were supposed to hit zipliners, who did not go down the track.
Just got stuck. Yeah,
but the lava still went into the pool, and it landed in there and had an effect in the story. So I think that the color, the shape, the troughs working to a certain extent it kept them pretty safe. Maybe not on the top end of things, but what do you guys feel about their builds?
Again, I think, like I was talking about just a second ago with that lava viscosity, it seemed like their zip liners were supposed to get pushed by it, and if it was more of a liquid, it might have done that. But it seemed like as the lava just crawled up to it, it encased their feet and basically glued them in place at the top. So they were.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So. Again, they had a really creative solution, which I think was required for this one, to be up in the clouds with your volcano, but it was well executed. It was something very different from anything else that was on the table.
Absolutely. So they had another song that they managed to cram in the interview. Yeah.
We are 3 for 3 on ukulele song covers.
Garrett, how do you feel about the ukulele song covers here?
I think, I'm glad that they have that passion.
That's good.
The only instrument I can play is a ukulele, so I do get it. I'm just not a big singing in public guy. That's not me, but I will say, for their build-wise, I think this is the best build we've seen from them.
There you go.
I did really like the colors they did for it, and I think this, Above the Clouds was a perfect theme for them to do. I think it worked very well in their favor, and, I did enjoy their build. So
there you go. Yeah.
Little Blue Aliens are pretty cool.
I think that they're still having fun.
Yeah.
And they're keeping it, very personal. They're really enjoying color. So, as long as they keep those things going, they should be pretty safe. So hopefully they're able to
I wouldn't say they're, the bottom teams.
No. Yeah. They haven't gotten in any danger yet, hopefully. So. But moving on to the next cloud team. This was Emily and Kelly and the Rainmaker Island. They had some interesting blue, transparent, shapes going on, brick bending. Their function was supposed to be a big container of blue studs that was supposed to get knocked over.
I gotcha.
It did read that way.
Yeah.
They didn't talk about it.
And it just went down and it passed it. It didn't actually knock it over. They were expecting more velocity. And I think that they got through with no problem again because their build was pretty much fine. It had some interesting story elements, but what did you guys think about their build?
I thought theirs was good. Like you mentioned, the brick bending with those teardrop shapes. I think that was really kind of unexpected from them.
Yeah,
in terms of build technique, that was really good for getting those big raindrops, and then the sculpted clouds, like the judges mentioned, was a really nice way to sell that effect of being up in the air.
Cloud-like for sure.
Yeah, I agree. They had some really good sculpting techniques, building, making it look like clouds, raindrops. I think that was really well. I think compared to the other cloud build, it just came up a little plain looking compared to theirs.
Less color. Yeah.
Less color. I like their story of the rainmakers up there. But it wasn't by any means a bad build. I did really enjoy how their clouds and raindrops looked really good.
Yeah.
It looked like they had worked a rainbow into it, but it was sort of underneath that trough. I think they could have made the rainbow a more present part that would have added a lot more color to it.
That would have been pretty cool, yeah. Just short of grand success, but they made it through safe because their build, accomplished a lot of good story.
Again, we can tell they're getting better by the week.
They also, I agree with you. Above the Clouds is the hardest thing to do. Yeah. That is the hardest one for anybody to do, and I think they did well with what they were given.
Exactly. Jungle Volcano, no brainer.
Yeah.
Clouds, not really easy.
What?
Yeah. Speaking of Jungle Volcano No Brainer, we've got Aubrey and Ryan here with their build, which was the jungle-themed Temple of Gold. It also had that kind of Aztec temple vibe, and the lava went and hit a bridge and kind of interacted with that a little bit. More minimal than some of the other things we've seen, but still, I think it was that's nice, safe application. The details in the temple were very nice.
Yes. Yeah.
What did you guys think of Aubrey and Ryan? Pretty safe?
I totally agree. They didn't show theirs for very long, which I think was a little disappointing. They haven't really shown much of them in any of the episodes. Because I guess they've just kind of been...
They've been good. They haven't been bad.
Yeah. But their techniques are really nice. All those dots tiles, and there was really nice texturing in the sides of the temple. It looked great.
Yeah, season 1 gets a lot of critique for showing Tyler and Amy, they're married, they're happy. So they're probably avoiding them specifically because of this, despite having that demographic box checked.
Right.
So, do you think that they'll maybe get some screen time later, Garrett, as the season progresses?
I think so, just because of they are skilled builders. They are very creative.
They're doing pretty well.
I think as of right now, we're focusing on the teams that are going above and beyond and the teams that are sinking.
Yeah.
So I think they're safe for a while. I feel like, and I think when we get later on, we're gonna start seeing a major role from them more.
We did get to see them interact with Duckbricks
We did.
and Robert a little bit. Duckbricks was like kind of creeping over their shoulders to see. They're literally next to them.
It was great.
He's just having fun by walking a few steps over. But
and as you said, in every maybe are we
he's
officially
next.
on Christopher?
He's
Robert
next,
now?
so we can start talking about it. Yeah. So.
They definitely always have a villain team or character.
Yep.
I think they're leaning into it in more of a comical way now.
I'm really glad for that.
Instead of just having these guys are so competitive and stuff. I mean, they had red lights
jerks.
and he was doing his evil laugh.
It was good.
It was good.
Yeah, I think that it's clear that Christopher Duckbricks has really captured the attention of the producers and the editors, which is honestly great because he's going to get more screen time. He's going to have a great time to have his humor come through. And I'm sure it's annoying to some people. And he's actually sort of a villain to some people.
On that note, I do want to say, in our first episode, I was very harsh on Christopher and Robert. And so I want to backpedal on that a little bit. I think now that I know that it's more of a
satire,
a character or a bit than an actual personality, I think it's funny. I think I identify with it more.
The more I see it, the more I'm starting to get, he's actually there's a twinkle in his eye as he's acting these over the top, monologues and stuff.
Yes,
so it's much more amusing now. I'm really getting on the Duckbricks bandwagon. Here, so.
There you go.
But their build was pretty awesome, honestly. They ended up in the top 2 best ones so far from them. I think the most focused. It was the Jungle Bastion of the Sun, not Bionicle Fortress.
Yeah, like they wanted to school like Garrett talk about.
Garrett, tell us about this one here.
In the land. No,
what an intro! Oh my goodness,
it was great. Duckbricks is my boy. I love Duckbricks. I'm the Bionicle guy here.
Yeah,
I mean, so to be able to see, I was already super hyped for Duckbricks to be on the show. I watch his videos all the time. He's I've tried to get you on to the 10-hour Bionicle lore. I'm waiting for him to upload the Neuralink file so I can directly upload it to your brains.
He just gets from behind, plug it in.
Yeah. I'll get a USB socket.
Exactly.
Installed.
So once that happens, but I mean, their build was so detailed, was so cool, and was so filled with love.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Bionicle, it was so awesome. I'm a little it's upsetting he wasn't allowed to talk about Bionicle.
Yeah, they couldn't name drop it.
I get it, but man, was it so cool. And come on, these little Tahoos are so cool.
This is straight up out of the 90th anniversary.
Yeah, it's Bonkel.
It's a Bonkel.
Yeah, you got 2 Bonkels.
And then this was their sort of
that was the pillar in the front.
Fire pillar altar thing.
It was really great. The HAL mask they built looked awesome. And they're really starting to focus on them more as a personality.
Yeah.
And I think it's working really well for them. They're fun to watch.
They're hitting their stride. Yeah. It's getting entertaining and a
lot
more to see.
More people on their side now. People are realizing, these guys are playing it up, making fun of the tech bros.
Yeah.
And it's super funny. I'm so glad he's on the show, and I'm glad we got to see Bionicle Love on Lego Masters.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, that's a huge HAL mask up there.
Yeah.
And on the build itself, they made a predominantly tan build look really good because they had some great color choices. They have a black volcano with a red mask in front, very vivid contrast.
It was really cool when the pyrotechnics went off and you saw the fire in the HAL mask in the eyes. Yeah. That was awesome.
They're calculating some stuff, and I know they were saying in the interviews whether this is real or not that they were worried about it, but I feel like they felt like they were pretty safe.
Yeah.
And they made a top 2. They didn't win, but
I think they were completely fine. It was really a toss-up when it came to the winner of that challenge. I am completely fine with Poppy and Ben winning because they're a great team. I really like them. Their build was great.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, but and as a Bionicle fan, this might be the best build we've seen on Lego Masters. It was great. Sorry, Mark. You're good. But it was great.
This is a really good one. This is a good episode overall. So really excited to see them
I was squealing like a little girl when it came on. I was like, yes!
I had a big smile on my face.
And then he started it off. We're starting the Bionicle lore. It was
they
great.
were like, tell us about your build. And then he was like quiet for a second. And everyone was like, wait, what's going on? And I was like, he's over like,
yeah.
I was like, oh boy, here it comes.
That's quality entertainment.
Y'all need to watch the Bionicle lore videos, and it'll make so much more sense.
Yeah. We'll get to that, I'm sure, one day. But
now, something else I want to talk about, and you might have some input on this, Mark. So I know there's very strict rules about not including anything licensed.
Yes.
So in terms of Lego licenses, does that include? I mean, you can build anything and call it anything else.
Yeah, as long as it's not a life-size weapon.
well,
That's fair.
You can't talk about the naming of anything though, but it seems okay that you could build a Lego license thing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think you could build a actual like a Star Wars character. You couldn't build a giant Darth Vader mask, probably.
Probably not.
That would be pushing the boundaries for
maybe.
sure. I think they could get away with the Lego Bionicle references because Lego is sponsoring the show directly, and they're not going to interfere with a reference, not a name drop,
right?
But a reference.
Clearly, still not one of them saying.
Yeah, if they said Bionicle, then they would have to get all their copyright and legal stuff. Just they would be willing to do it. It would just create a big wrinkle that they don't want to have to deal with.
Because it is Lego Masters, but it's a Fox show.
Yeah.
It's not owned by Lego.
I think the real reason, like when it really comes down to it, I think if Duck Bricks had said the word Bionicle, his eyes would have started glowing, and it
would have started levitating off the ground.
He would have started levitating, glowing, and then they wouldn't have been able to stop him talking for the next 10 hours, and he just would have dumped the entire lore out.
Exactly.
I
think they did it as a precaution.
I want to see the uncut tapes of their interviews because he probably did 10 hours worth of interviews where he was talking about it, and they just had to cut it all out.
Yeah, they quickly cut all that out, unfortunately.
Have you heard the tragedy of Motunui?
Have you heard the sacrifice of Matoro? Yeah. We're about to.
Actually, that reminds me. Jordan and Chris did have a nice little Sphinx build. It was the Sphinx Secret Surprise Sphinx. I forgot about that.
That was a nice inclusion in their otherwise somewhat flat landscape chunk. So. But so that was quite the build, quite the moment of Lego Masters. So far, we're looking forward to what Christopher and Robert make. But one of the last few teams we have on the list here is Nita and Sam with Penguin Island. They have Arctic and ice as their theme. Another very challenging volcano build subject. But theirs was a huge gray mound of brick. It was probably the largest one in the room.
Yeah. Easily.
And I don't think the judges were looking for the largest build in the room. They're looking for a function.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to work at all. What do you guys think about this build?
You want to go first?
This challenge was very much not a put down as many bricks as you can in 12 hours challenge.
Like the last one?
Yeah, it was very much, we want to see detail, we want to see creativity, we want to see functions. I think the functions they had could have worked really well.
Yes.
They just unfortunately had some malfunctions with it.
Multiple malfunctions.
Their little penguin minecart went supersonic and flung across the room. He was flying.
Yeah. They were like, oh.
Yeah. If there's anything I learned from Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 as a kid, it's that you need bank turns at the bottom of very steep hills.
But I really like them as a team. I think they have had 2 stellar weeks.
Yes.
And I think they just got, a little relaxed this week. They had the golden brick. They had 2 phenomenal weeks. And this week they were just...
a little unbalanced.
They just missed the mark.
I think the build was still good, but I mean, it's impressive the amount of stuff they can do in that amount of time.
It was an accomplishment.
They put together a lot of stuff. I think it's the worst build we've seen from them so far, but it was not the worst build of the challenge by any means.
Yes, and that was proven in the final judging for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and unfortunately they lost the golden brick because they were in the bottom 2.
I couldn't believe that.
I think part of the reason being is that it's like, okay, they faltered this time, even if they weren't. If the golden brick was out of the question, would they have ended up in the bottom 2? Maybe. But because they had the golden brick and because they felt it's like, this makes good TV.
Yeah, it does.
Blunk, drop it right in there. That could have been the situation. I'm sure they can't comment on that. So.
Yeah.
But that's my guess, having worked with the golden brick for like 5 episodes. So.
And the judges made a big point about that being the first time that this has ever happened. That may not even be unique to Lego Masters US or North America. That may be in any Lego Masters. I'm not sure.
There's got to be cases around the world. There's 30 something.
Because usually, if you even think you have a chance of being in the bottom 2, you would probably play it. Because otherwise, I mean, it's just a waste. I don't know.
I think it's because of the great unknown factor of the lava and the challenge and the functions work. If you assume all the functions will work, they have a big volcano. I'm pretty sure everyone was realizing Jordan and Chris were kind of maybe struggling with the volcano concept.
Yeah.
So they're like, we'll probably survive just fine.
But Sam seemed very set on not playing it. I mean, they didn't even play it up like he was hesitating.
He was pretty chill.
He was like, no, we're going to hang on to it.
Yeah, it didn't work out this time, but it looks like, based on the previews for the next episode, we might be seeing it again soon. So we'll see how that goes.
In terms of their build, I mean, when the judges came by and they had this huge gray, I mean, it looked like they started going up because they wanted to make it a very tall triangle shape. And I think they ran out of time, and so they started sort
rounding.
of started flattening it off, and it became more of a plateau.
It kind of went
mound.
more of like a giant volcano to Stone Mountain.
Yeah, or an
Yes,
egg.
Stone Mountain
Yeah.
is a good comparison. And then trying to put details on after. I feel like if you want to get something big, you want to minimize the volume of it. So I think if I was trying to build the biggest volcano in the room, I would have done more of a tapered kind of pointy volcano, like a fantasy style volcano or something.
Exactly.
So when you start requiring that many pieces for what you're building, you're going to get yourself in a tight spot in terms of leaving time to do those details.
And 12 hours is more than 10 hours, but not
Yeah.
that many more
Not
hours.
much.
Yeah,
Not
that's an extra lunch break. You know, that's not too much.
I thought the teaser when they said it was going to be 20 hours and then that was a good bit.
Yeah, for a second I'm like,
Yeah, then
no.
as cool as the builds could have been if they had 20 hours, that's not an episode 3.
well, they would have run out of brick, actually, probably at 20
Yeah.
hours. Everyone would have used it up.
Yeah.
But the last team that was presented was Paul and Nita. They had The Legend of Arctic Island, which is also another Arctic-themed build. And we have a number of build chunks from their creation, including the dragon, the kraken legs or tentacles, and we have some, I'm guessing these were ice trees. That's what it looked like in the build.
Super cool.
The tentacles are great. This is a great build technique. I always love to see stuff done with the big ball joints.
Yeah,
'cause
they
you get
were
nice dynamic angles that way.
having fun with those. Unfortunately, those ball joint pieces, which are super useful, were taken out of the season, so hopefully nobody needed them later on. But they seem to have not too many difficulties. Their functions were a little bit small and down towards the bottom. However, it ended up working great, so
I think it
kudos
worked
to
in their
them.
favor.
Yeah.
Having a more simple function, it was less room for it to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
And it exemplified their build. So I mean, I think they had a really good build. You know, just having the zipline guy and the water wheel was great. So
that's all you need. And their volcano was all white, so it was very Arctic.
Really made it stand
You
out.
weren't losing that concept of the story, so you think they did pretty good, Daniel?
I think they did. Something interesting I noticed with them and with Poppy and Ben, I think when you talk about having a play feature, or you know, a design element that's supposed to have a function, it's very important whether that succeeds or not. As we've seen, like if you advertise it, you're going to have a function. Whether or not it works, it then becomes a very critical component for your success. And I think an element of how the judges decide whether or not it worked is your reaction to it.
Yeah.
So Poppy and Ben had the little monarch who was supposed to topple, and he sort of just kind of slowly slid down the stairs. But they were like, "Yeah, it worked! Yes, it was great." If
At first they were hesitated, then they're like, "Yeah."
If they had been like, "Oh, you know, it kind of worked," you know, the judges might have been harsher on. So I think actually your acting and your ability to sell whether or not it did what you were expecting it to do might be an important factor. So for them, they had their water wheel going, and they were so jazzed that it worked. And I think that's a factor maybe.
They might have something to do with the edit too, because they might be capturing elements from when the fire first goes off, or something, and they're throwing that in there too. But
like, I don't know, if I ever said I had a function or something, and then it maybe didn't work quite as intended, I think you would still want to be like, "Yeah, it worked perfect."
I would say I would start shaking and be like,
"Woo!" You're just foaming at the mouth.
Don't pretend like it did not work.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can't even pretend, like Jordan and Chris, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but let's talk about your top two just a little bit more. We had Christopher and Robert, and we had Poppy and Ben. I mean, we think this is well deserved.
I think so.
And we're excited to see what both these teams do moving forward, right? So,
for sure, absolutely.
And then the bottom two also, I think, pretty well deserved, even if maybe Sam and Nina could have avoided the bottom if their golden brick wasn't a factor. But that being said, I think that their build, it qualified. They made mistakes.
It was definitely their weakest, and after they've had two great builds, so this really made this build seem even worse because of how great their past builds have been.
I think we could see them rebound in a major way, though. I think they are the kind to really kind of linger on that and learn from their mistakes and study what they did wrong and really adapt moving forward. So I don't think we'll see them make a mistake like this again.
I would not be surprised to see them win another challenge here soon.
Yeah. This was their first misstep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unlike Jordan and Chris, this is their second in a row and pretty big time both times. So it makes total sense. Unfortunately, I feel really bad for my friends, Jordan and Chris. I know they
would have loved to see more episodes out of them.
They can do so much more than that. I hope that they make some mocks to kind of prove that later.
Yeah.
Like I know Brad and Mike from the first episode, Elimination, they ended up building a big thing for BrickCon and having fun with that. So hopefully Jordan and Chris are able to show some of their stuff at least on the community side of things later.
And we've seen, contestants do things like that, either recreating models they made on the show, or if they went out earlier than they would have hoped, like building things at home alongside the episodes. Like, oh, here's what we would have built for these other challenges. And I love to see stuff like that. So maybe we'll see some stuff like that from Jordan and Chris.
Hopefully so. But one of the best episodes of LEGO Masters this season by far, and then honestly ever. It's one of the top ones for me in recent memory. And looking forward to the next episode. They were teasing the golden brick.
Yep.
What did you guys think about that teaser? Anything that's standing out to you as interesting? So.
Golden brick, I think, is going to come back. It's going to be cool to see who gets it. This is going to be one of the wackiest challenges I think we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Getting a sound effect and then deciding what that sound looks like.
Yeah.
Super weird, but I think this is going to be just like this past challenge. This is going to be where we see people's a lot of their creativity.
Yeah.
We're really going to get to see people shine, and we're really going to get to see people sink on this one, I think.
It looked like Tim and Tim were struggling, and that's a bad sign because I love Tim and Tim. So
I think this is going to be one of those episodes where you see teams start to get kind of tunnel vision, or either they start building and don't really know what direction they're going, and maybe don't have a very clear picture. Yeah. And that might have even been what happened a little bit with Nina and Sam. I mean, when you see teams kind of just working on something like a big gray mound, it's like maybe they don't really have a clear picture of where they're going, and so they're just kind of focusing on putting something down, and it gets to a point where you have to kind of make some decisions.
Yeah, they did have a lot of gray going on, and then I think there was even a conversation that might have gotten into the edit where and Sam were like, well, what kind of story do we want to put on this map?
right.
So maybe
here's a volcano, now what?
Yeah, maybe Groovy Bones will let us know how their thought process was for the thing. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you all the season 4 contestants that are commenting. And,
what is that? What's going on? What's going on? Wait, hang on. Before we go, we gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that terrible CG lava at the end.
You had me closing off the episode.
No, that was so bad. The CG lava. Oh,
it was so funny.
They needed more slime.
That was dumb.
The slime budget they ran out.
It was Spy Kids level CGI.
Yeah. I mean the motion tracking. It was like all jittery on it.
You had this cloud of fake smoke going up.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And you had these Nickelodeon slime patches landing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a poor way to end the episode. It felt anticlimactic to me.
Sometimes the campiness with LEGO Masters is fun, and sometimes it's just like, ugh.
Well, speaking of campy, we may as well discuss Will sacrificing certain elements to the volcano. I actually thought that was kind of funny.
Hilarious.
That was a good bit. The high heels from Amy. Amy's just trying not to look mad at that. She's like, those are my favorite pair.
I'm sure it's something he just got from the costuming department or something.
The ukulele, though, I think it was Melanie ran over to get that.
She ran to
it. Her actual ukulele.
It's either Allison or Melanie.
I don't think it was just a prop. I don't think it was just a prop one. It might have been her actual.
The way she reacted, that might have been her actual ukulele.
Absolutely.
Either that or she was actually selling it. I don't know.
I think this episode was the best though because there weren't too many shenanigans.
Oh yeah.
Right? You got a lot of time on the builds and the teams, so hopefully we get more of that moving forward. But if that's all we have for today, it'll be thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.